So without any further ado, let's go to our second guest of the day. He's a great friend in the locker room. Let's go to the Maserati, the Mainline Sports Hotline, and welcome in longtime NBA referee. He's now the rules analyst for ESPN broadcast of the NBA, Steve Javie. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Billy. Good morning, Mike. How you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
How about that, Steve Javie? Mike Carlin goes, how did you get Steve Javie? I said, I've known Steve Javie.
My gosh, we go way back, Billy. Unbelievable.
I said, so it's got to be like.
Hey, Mike, you still in Ocean City?
I am. Yeah. I told Billy when we were off the air, it's like, he's an Ocean City guy, along with God knows how many other former and NBA refs in Ocean City. You walk the boardwalk, every other guy's an NBA ref, seems like.
Mike, you got to watch out to blow a foul on you every time. Look out.
Yo, Carl will be riding his bike down the boardwalk and hear a whistle. What'd I do? He crossed the lane.
Oh no! You look at listen.
Turn off the next street.
You look at Steve wrong. Technical. Boom.
Yeah, Steve. Mike Carlin says he says you blew the whistle kind of quick on him, man.
Well, Mike, is there something wrong with that?
So, Steve,
I know what you were thinking, Mike.
I know. I told Billy, I've been lucky enough with my son now with Cleveland that I've had some really good seats. And when you hear the stuff that goes on the court, I was telling Josh and Bill, I was like, when a technical is called, you have no idea how over the line that guy went to that referee to call it. They don't just call technicals to call technicals. And when you hear the stuff that's on the floor being said and they don't call it, you're like, man, he got away with that guy. And then you see the referee walk away and turn around and hit the tee, you know he crossed the line. Tell him, Steve.
Well, Mike, it's an interesting point you make because a lot of times the analysts on TV, when you see the referee gives the player a technical foul or a coach technical foul, they'll sit there in their booth and say, "Well, it didn't look like he deserved much," but they don't know the buildup, like you just said, Mike. The buildup of it all, what they've said prior, what they said that he walked away from, they had to be tolerant of, and all of a sudden, finally, it hits the boiling point and saying that's enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you officials have to have a thick skin, that's for sure, because not only they probably talk about your mom, your wife, your dog, everything.
Billy, I don't mind them talking about them as long as they don't talk about me.
Well, no, if Mariella gets a hold of it, she'll blow a technical on you.
Yeah, but you can't tell her that, Billy. Just don't tell her.
You got to tell Mariella. We said, no, Mike, I don't know if you know this, but I met Steve Javie many years ago when I worked at U.S. Airways. Steve's wife now was a ticket agent, and I used to see Steve when the referees. You guys you flew domestically, right? I mean, you didn't have a charter flight, and I'd see Steve at the airport all the time, and that's how we met.
Man, small world.
Yeah, that's Mike, and that's how I met my wife through the airport. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That is crazy. Now, a lot of people don't know. I was telling Billy today before the show started, and Josh, I was like, a lot of people look at Steve as just being an NBA guy. I said, they don't know that he was a baseball guy before an NBA guy, played for Temple. And then after Temple went down to what was it? The Florida State League. Weren't you an umpire down there for a little bit, Class A? I
was an umpire after that. After my playing days, I was an umpire. Yes.
So when did you finally get to the point where, okay, baseball's coming to an end? How did basketball start for you?
Yeah, that's interesting, Mike. You're right. In college, I actually signed up when I was at Temple playing baseball there. I remember I was playing intramural basketball at Temple, and I saw a sign that they needed referees to referee intramural basketball for $10 a game, and I'm like, hey, why not? I mean, if I do 2 or 3 games, a night or something like that, I can make my weekend money, that kind of stuff. And that's how it really all started. I really enjoyed it, and so I joined the local. At 20 years old, I joined the local Norristown chapter for the PIAA.
Yep.
Took my test and started refereeing. 5th and 6th grade boys and girls and so on and so forth. And so that's how it started at Temple and then just worked my way up. People think, I guess you start right away. You want to be in the NBA. So you start doing minor league games in the NBA. I was doing 5th and 6th grade boys and girls at, White Marsh Junior High, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That was me. That's when I had you. I just
Yeah.
didn't know what I had on the court next to me. So a lot of people don't know.
Guess what? No, Mike, you knew what you had on the floor. This guy really stunk.
Little did we know he was going to be from the White Marsh, from LaSalle High, that you were going to make it to where you did in the NBA. And a lot of people don't know. Again, a lot of things that just a normal person wouldn't know, but is it true, if I remember right, you did Michael Jordan's last game?
His last regular season game. Yes,
yep.
His last regular season game. Yep.
So I mean, that's something to have in the back of your head that, not too many people can say that kind of thing. And what was it like? Like, could you feel that it was his last game? Like, was he different in that game?
Any added pressure on you because of that, Steve?
No, Billy, no. I mean, to me, I know what I always think, Billy, about pressure. Pressure is self-imposed.
Right.
It really is self-imposed. And so, no, there really wasn't added pressure. You put pressure on yourself to excel and so on and so forth, that kind of stuff. But like, because you have a star in the game, so what? But no, you knew it was obviously the build-up for the last game of his regular season, of his career, regular season game of his career. And it was, you knew it was, and the players knew it was. Matter of fact, I did something, Mike, and I haven't said this too many times to people. Like, I think if I remember correctly, they took him out of the game, then he put him back in the game to finich the game. And he's on the free throw line like in the last minute or two or something like that, and the fans start cheering. And I held the ball like in the middle of the lane, just so I wanted everybody to take it in. And then I just said to the players on the lane something about like, and I can't even quote myself, but something about, you know what? If you guys are like half the ball player and guy he is, then this league's going to be okay. You know, so just
right. I remember you said it to all the young guys, like the young guys, like
Yeah.
the rookies or 1 or 2 years. Like, if you can have a career like he had, you guys will be okay, kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Anybody would be okay, wouldn't they? Holy moly!
We're talking with
some career. He really did.
We're talking with former NBA referee Steve Javie. Now he's the rules analyst for ESPN. The NBA TV broadcast. Steve, the officiating, a lot of the officials in NBA and NFL, they're really getting criticized and scrutinized a lot recently. I remember we had that roundtable meeting, or roundtable show with you, Bob McElwee, and Curry Frazier. That's something I'll never forget. I was around greatness, Mike Carlin. These guys combined cream of the crop in each one of their respective sports. But I remember you guys talking about no makeup calls. You don't think about making a makeup call, Steve.
Yeah, that's true. No, Billy, 100% right. Makeup calls are really, if any official has ever said he had a makeup call, then he's not an official. Right. He really isn't, because, and especially when you get to the level of a professional level where you've worked that hard to get to your career, you're not going to miss a call on purpose because you might have missed a call. Here's the thing. That call you just made that everybody sees on replay, slow motion, and finally they realize after the third time that you missed a call, you don't know that when you're on the floor.
Right.
So how can I sit there and go like, oh, I think I might have missed that one, and now miss another one intentionally? We're the officials in all levels of sports are graded every game for every call and every non-call. And that goes to like the end of their season ratings, and the end of the season ratings goes to the playoffs. The playoffs are the extra money. That's the bonus for an official. That's the incentive for the official in any sport to excel at his, sport and get as many plays right as he can. So if I'm missing plays intentionally, I'm actually taking money out of my pocket for my family. If I missed a play, I missed it. My father used to say, and my father, as you well know, Billy, was an official in the NFL for 30 years. Yeah. My father used to say the best official has the shortest memory. And it's true. If you did know you missed a call, you forget about it. Because if you let that harbor and you let that think, it drives you crazy. It's like, all right, you missed a call, so what? Why did I miss it? All right, let's get in better position. Let's not guess on the play. Think of why maybe you missed it, and just don't do it again.
Now, Steve Javie, a lot of it was made in the I know you're NBA, but in the NFL, in the Super Bowl, the Bradbury call, apparently the official, that had happened a couple plays earlier in the game where he didn't call it, and all of a sudden it's crunch time, and then he calls a holding play, which was, but do officials, like, how can I say this? Do officials like say just let them play? You know what I mean? Are we going to be tough on these guys today? Or are we going to let them play? Does that ever come up?
Yeah, I see that 3 words "let them play" is really a tough one, because that means you can let mayhem sit in there. But let me say this first: I've been an Eagles fan since they won it in 1960. My father officiated that game in Franklin Field when I was 5 years old. Yeah. And so I bleed Eagles green. That's the only sport I'm a fan of. Basketball is my job. Baseball I played. Football I've always loved the Eagles. I really have. So I it took a couple days for me to get over that, but I should say it's probably not a couple because I'm a little more mature nowadays. But no, that's a tough situation there because as soon as you see the flag, and it's funny, they had a thing of Jason Kelsey saying game's over. Exactly right. Game is over. First of all, I admire the defensive back for standing up and saying, yeah, I did hold him. I did, I held the jersey. I hold it, it's tough. You hate to, as an official, to make a call that actually ends the game. I mean, like the team didn't even get a chance to tie it. Even in basketball, being aware of the score, being aware of the surroundings and saying like, all right, this one team is down 3. Is it marginal or is it illegal contact? And so in that situation, they have to sit there and deem it marginal contact or illegal. And Billy, like you said, if he said he got away with it before, hey, I'm not going to criticize the official in that situation because it's a holding call. The NFL says it's holding. The defensive back says it's holding. We as fans sit there and go, I kind of wish he didn't call it. And so did Bradbury. He wished he didn't call it too. But unfortunately, that's what happened. I think sometimes we get eyes are so green with the Eagles, we don't realize that how poorly their defense played in the second half and couldn't stop Kansas City. Those 2 wide open touchdowns, I don't know how. I don't know how you could ever.
Or blown coverages, no doubt about it. We're talking with Steve Javie, former NBA official. He now is the rules analyst on the ESPN broadcast. Hey, Steve, as an analyst, a rules analyst, you're asked to scrutinize the officials, right? You're analyzing the call that they made, and then are you maybe even second guessing them? Does that put you in a difficult position?
Yes and no, Billy. It does. I mean, I think you can scrutinize because I think any good official has to be number one. The one thing he has to be is objective with himself. And if there's a call on the court that I see that either it's a rule misinterpretation or maybe even just a judgment call that happens so quickly on the court. If I see it and I see that the guy got fouled and he didn't blow the whistle and they come to me, I would explain like maybe why the official didn't blow the whistle, and that if the official sees this in the locker room afterwards, he's going to wish he had a whistle. So I think it's the way you scrutinize is one thing. I think it's so important because if you just sit there and say, I don't know how he missed that call, what's going on out there? These officials stink. And that's what you hear these hometown people do sometimes. I think every official, and hopefully over the years that I've earned the respect of the officiating community, where I can add my expertise and say, hey, in my judgment, I would have called this. In my judgment, my opinion, so on and so forth. And hey, it's okay to disagree, but sometimes I think officials, when they go back in the locker room and look at it and say, yeah, I missed that call, or gosh, I pushed that rule aside and I shouldn't have. So, I mean, there's a fine line you walk, but it's all a matter how you put it, Billy.
So, Steve, 25 years in the NBA, great career. You're one of a few refs that can say that you did over 1,000 games. So you've seen and heard everything on the floor. Tell us one story that stands out in your mind, because when you're watching the game from home or even if you're in the stadium, you don't hear everything. Who was your all-time trash talker, not so much to you, but to other players that they just like stood out? Like when you went into that arena, you knew you were in for a night listening to this guy. But does anybody stand out?
That's a great question.
That's a great question, Mike. It really is. I mean, there obviously nowadays there's a lot of trash talkers on the court. There's no doubt. And a matter of fact, I'm pushing away from the question, but I'll get back to it. Matter of fact, the NBA, when I was in there, they actually had to put a rule down about trash talking because it got into some physical altercations where guys didn't like what somebody, trash talked them or taunted them. So they had to put some rules in there. But I think the guy who, and I didn't, it's funny, Jordan was pretty good, they said, but I didn't really hear him that much. Larry Bird was just incredible.
Wow.
Larry Bird had a
Would
way
you expect that?
He just had a way of saying a couple words at the right time, and the other guy would just shut up. He really did. He was amazing. And he didn't do it in a disrespectful way. He was just basically saying, here's what I'm going to do. I remember one time at the captain's meeting, I remember a name by Phil Hubbard. Phil Hubbard played for Cleveland. He was a captain. He was actually the captain of the Cavaliers, but the sixth man on the bench. And what a nice man he was. I mean, really great gentleman and professional. And we're at the captain's meeting, and they're just chatting. He and Larry Bird were chatting just a little bit, and Larry Bird just said something like, you know what? I'll be kicking your guy's butt. By the time you get off the bench, you'll be down 20. And it was like, Phil Hubbard just looked at him like, oh, my God, what can I say to that? I mean, Larry Bird was great. Larry Bird was really good at that.
Well, Steve, I got to tell you, man, I just wanted to get you on, and we haven't. Every time I see you on television, I got to tell you, just put a smile on my face. You're such a nice guy, class act, and we'll be seeing you obviously summertime in Ocean City.
Yeah, we got time to come to the studio.
We'll have to have you in the studio and have some fun. But we really appreciate talking to you today, and enjoy. We'll see you down the road.
Yeah, Billy, Mike, thanks. And Billy, don't hesitate to call as we get closer to the playoffs and so on.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to come on anytime with you guys.
And tell Mary Ellen we said hello.
Absolutely, Billy. Thanks
got
so much, brother.
All right.
Thanks, Michael.
Take care, buddy.
There he is, Steve Javie on the Maserati Mainline Sports Hotline. You know what the one word? Class.
Yeah.
He's a genuine,
gentleman, all
real
that.
gentleman.